Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I hope you're doing well, staying safe, and playing a lot of tennis and improving your game. I haven't actually playing a ton of tennis lately. I just played Friday and then 2 matches on Saturday and practiced on Sunday. And I think I probably played maybe 12 times in the past 14 or 15 days. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've really been getting seeing a lot of improvement from my game. My timing is much better, obviously, with the increased reps and my touch and feel. And, players are different. Some players just need the reps, and others, maybe they can't sustain playing all the time and they need some rest in between. I have friends who are both ways, but for me, the more I play, the better I feel. Obviously, I have to kind of guard against burnout, which I do not feel at all as a threat right now, as well as, just recovery and your body potentially breaking down. Like, I know tomorrow is a day for rest. So I'm going to be working on the tennis summit, the online tennis conference that I host every year. That is going to be starting on April 18th. So look out for more information on that, both on the podcast and on my newsletter. So just go to tennisfiles.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get a free ebook as well. So when you are on that newsletter, then I'll update you with all the different sorts of content that I put out, and especially the summit and the podcast and, videos and all that. So definitely suggest that. But for today's episode, I have an interview with my friend Richard Groenewold, and it's pretty cool that I met him. I think it's been 3 years now in Orlando at a racket and paddle show, basically a conference there. Well, I guess, they had a ton of different vendors, all brands, both very established as well as new ones. And Richard is currently the national sales manager for Signum Pro USA, as well as the owner of Genesis strings. And so both Signum Pro and Genesis are tennis strings, and I've tried their strings, and they're excellent. They have many different kinds. And, being friends with Richard, I thought it would be great to bring him on the show, because in talking to him several times, he's just such a passionate person. I remember sitting at Panera like 2-3 weeks ago and just hearing the passion that he has for the sport and for strings and all the knowledge that he has. Thought it would be great, because we get so many questions about, what is the right string for me? What are the different kinds of strings? How do, I guess, like shaped strings and 5- and 6-sided strings and all this and that, how do they affect topspin? Just all these questions that I get. And it's really great to have somebody with eminent expertise, if that's the right word, about tennis strings. So Richard is a perfect person for that. And so, yeah, we'll cover a lot of different things, what tension you should be using, the difference between, what the different pros use and all that. So it'll be a lot of fun. And with that, I would like to bring you to the interview now. So enough blabbing on my part. We'll get to it. So without further ado, here's my interview with Richard Groenewold. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the podcast. And it's really an honor and a pleasure to have on Richard Groenewold on the podcast to talk about how to choose the best strings for your game. Richard, it's great to have you on. How's it going over there?
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. Everything's going great. I already played tennis today. So if I play tennis, everything's perfect after that.
Yeah, same here. It almost seems like it was yesterday when we first met at I think it was the Racket and Paddle show or conference in Orlando. Was it like 2019 or 2020? But yeah, it's
2019 exactly. Yeah. 2020, right? Exactly the same year that the pandemic started, right?
Yeah. It was only like a few months after, I think. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was so much fun to meet you and to meet all the other vendors over there. And I'm excited to just talk about strings with you. I mean, I was in a Panera a couple of days ago, and we were chatting about Signum Pro and Genesis strings, and just in general, like your passion for the game and for tennis, and obviously for tennis and for strings. So excited to talk to you about it to help others choose the best strings for them. And you have a lot of great knowledge about strings, but I'm curious, how did you get your start in tennis itself?
Well, I was 12. My family had the tennis courts. That was the family business, you know. But the truth is that I hated tennis. You know, I love soccer.
Look
I
at you
love
now.
basketball. Exactly. It's something really amazing. You know, it was a really nice story. You know, in which one friend invited me one day to play tennis with him, and then we started playing tennis. And I said, "How can I have lost so much time? You know, with no playing tennis? If this sport is really so incredible. You know, such an amazing sport, you know, full of energy, full of, you know, like many different things that make it so interesting and so different than other sports."
Yeah. It's always something to work on, the mental aspect, technique, the strategy, the fitness. It's just all out there for you to improve and enjoy the process. And so then how did you gravitate into strings? Because as we'll talk about soon, I mean, and in the intro, as you've heard, you're involved with a couple string companies at a high level. So how did you get into that world?
Okay, let me tell you, I had I had a little tennis business since I was a young kid. You know, I wanted to have better rackets, better apparel. You know, anything that I could. So I started selling tennis strings when I was like 13 or 14 years old. Wow. And I would strung rackets for players and all that. So that would help me, you know, to grab some money for me and for, you know, keep on playing tennis as well. Now, eventually, you know, my life twisted, you know, because I wanted to play professional tennis. And when I was 20, I was playing a challenger tour, no, a satellite tournament. You know, that's the name of well, now they call them futures, but actually the satellite tournaments were a little bit different because you needed to play 3 tournaments before playing the last one, you know. So the thing is that I was playing, you know, like tournaments in the US, and then there was a tournament in Cuba. So I went to Cuba to play this tournament, and it hurt me so much that, you know, I didn't understand what socialism was, you know. So I went there, you know, and I see all these terrible things that happened, you know. Then I didn't want to play tennis there. So I decided to dedicate my life to do photography, you know. So I started doing photography in a way in which I could try to change things in life that I didn't like, you know. So a lot of social photography that would change, you know, the perspective of people. Well, the thing is that I dedicated many years to photography, but kept on playing tennis. Then when I became a father, you know, I decided that there was no better sport for me to teach my kids than tennis, you know. So I went back to tennis. But now about tennis strings, you know, that's the interesting part. Before this, I was stringing my rackets with the cheapest polyester, you know, because that was the durable string for me. And I was asking a friend of mine that had a tennis store, you know, what was Loxlon or what was those new brands out there, you know, and why that string was so expensive, you know, if it was still polyester. And my friend said that it was actually not polyester, that it was a new thing that was really amazing and felt great and all that. But I didn't believe in him, you know. I thought he was just trying to sell to me. So I never tried these strings until one day I went to the US, and I didn't bring my rackets with me, you know. So a friend of mine lent me his rackets, and they were strung with this orange string, you know. And I went there playing with these rackets, and all my balls were going in, you know, the right way, better power, better everything. And I went back with my friend. I was like, dude, your rackets are oversized. In my entire life, I could never have played with an oversized racket, but these strings are amazing. They feel great. What are they? You know? And he was like, dude, I told you many times, you know, that these strings are the best thing in the world. And just imagine from someone that was really, you know, what's the word, you know, that you don't want to change, that you want to keep on whatever you exactly. So instead of me being open-minded, you know, I was completely closed about it, you know. So after trying it, I love it, you know. So I bought a reel, my first reel of Signum Pro polyplasma,
Mm.
Now it's really interesting that that was the way in which I started using better quality tennis strings. And at the end, I'm the distributor for Signum Pro in Canada, the US, and Mexico, right? So it's an interesting thing that I jumped from not wanting to even try that string because it was more expensive than other strings to now being the distributor of that brand in 3 countries, right? And at the same time, well, we ended up buying or purchasing a brand called Genesis, which is a brand that makes the strings as well in Germany, but they also make strings in Taiwan and other countries, but only the best quality strings in the world. Because I really care about tennis and I love the sport, I don't want to have or to sell anything that is not the best in the world for our customers or for any other tennis player that wants to achieve better goals and play tennis better, right?
Yeah, 100%, Richard. Yeah, that's super cool. And also I'm really curious, like how difficult is it to compete in the tennis stringing world? I mean, you do have a lot of brands, especially the huge brands that make rackets and such. So how hard is that?
You're completely right. Let me tell you something. We would be nothing. I mean, we would not sell not even half of what we're selling right now if it wasn't because of something that I find really important. First of all, we're a human company, okay? The people that are working in this company, which is called the Tennis Depot, that's the name of our site. And the Tennis Depot is the one selling to all the big brands, not brands, all the big stores out there, and many coaches and all that. So the reason why we're doing good is because first, our product is top quality. Okay, I mean, with the amount of money that we can, put into advertising, we would be nothing. The quality is not as good as for many people to be recommending it. Okay, so the reason why we grow as a company is because people try our string and they see the difference between the quality of our string and other brands out there, right? Now, after realizing the quality, they also realize that the customer service that we have is amazing. I mean, like a customer can call me at 10 p.m. and I will still take care of him, And as someone that loves tennis, anyone that calls me is someone that is playing tennis as well, or that lives through tennis, many coaches or many professional players that calls us and need string or anything. I mean, it's like if my brother is calling me, like someone that I really care about because they are growing tennis, in the world, and so we care about coaches because I had been a coach for many years already, so I understand the needs of coaches and how important it is that we keep on, helping as many players as possible and as many coaches as possible, and of course, as many stores as possible. Okay, so imagine I owned the tennis shop. I had been a coach, I had been a player, so I know the needs of these three,
Right.
So when someone that owns a store and that is struggling with many different things or issues that any tennis store or any tennis shop struggle with, of course, it's not only that I understand them, I also can help them as well, So all these kind of things makes our company different than the big brands out there, because probably if you have an account with any big brand, I won't mention any, but if you have an account with them and you call them right now to customer service, you are a number to them, right? So, but if you call me, I probably know your name, right? Because I deal directly with many customers, and my phone never stops ringing and never stopped getting WhatsApps and SMS, and emails and all that. And I take care of each one individually, Of course, I'm not taking care of the shipments or the warehouse or anything because it would make it impossible, But
Sure.
I do take care of every customer like someone that I really care about. And I think that makes people to be more interested in our brand because it's not only that we're selling a quality product, but we're taking care of the customers the way they like them to be taken care of.
Yeah. That personalized service is so clutch and can really endear people to a brand and be helpful for everybody. So, Richard, So I want to talk to you about how players can find the right strings for them, generally like the different types of strings and so forth and tensions. I have a lot of questions about that. So, I mean, I guess first off, can you run us through like the main types of different strings and then kind of summarize like, their characteristics and who they're best suited for?
Perfect. Now, for these, I'll try to be really fast because I could talk for hours about these, and it's going to be difficult for people to fully understand it. Okay, but before all the discoveries that they've made for tennis strings, there was natural gut. Okay, there's still natural gut. It's a string that has a really nice vibration and makes you feel really nice when you hit the ball. Okay, so natural gut was there for ages, since the tennis started until nowadays. Feather plays with a natural gut combined with a copolyester, and I think Djokovic as well, and probably many others as well in the tour. Okay, after that, they realized that there was no enough animals in the world for probably having as much gut as they needed for all the rackets. So they started making materials from nylon, now polyester, and then copolyester. And what is copolyester? Because that's the string that is the most used nowadays. The CO before polyester means that it has a combination of different additives that are good for the polyester that can be combined with polyester. Okay, so it's not like water and oil. It's not something that can't be mixed. This co means that the additives that are put in there can be combined with the polyester, and then like that they make these new formulas. Okay, now this is really important because nobody cared about copolyester strings before. It was, I think, 1998, and no player would play with copolyester. They were all using microfilaments, and real like let's say like strings like NXT and things like that, right? And then there was a player that started believing in copolyester and came out from nowhere and won Roland Garros. So nobody knew about this guy, and then a few months after, this guy was a Grand Slam champion, right? So they started asking what's the difference between this guy and the others. He was using this copolyester string. So as soon as this guy became a Grand Slam champion, everyone started switching to copolyester. I mean, not everyone. Let's say Pete Sampras played with natural gut until he retired, but his exhibitions after that, he was using half copolyester and half natural gut. Okay, and Federer is doing that since he started playing. Half copolyester and half natural gut. Now, why this copolyester was so amazing? Remember, in the 1990s, after a point, a player would grab his racket and get all the strings back to its normal position, because all those strings would move. Well, these copolyester strings were really interesting because the strings would go back after you hit the ball, okay? So that would make something really unbelievable. Nowadays, we're used to that. We're never getting our strings back to its normal position, But we used to do that in the 1990s and 1980s and all. I mean, for ages before that, So this string because of the ingredients that it has, part of the additives that are in these strings is Teflon. Okay, so they put Teflon in it, so they make the strings to be really smooth, and get back to its normal position after hitting the ball. So you can generate a lot of spin, and your strings will go back to its normal position after that. And that's a really interesting thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
We have a huge array of tennis strings in the world now, a huge array, probably, let's say, 500 different strings between all the brands out there, right? So how can you choose? They are all, if you're choosing just because of the price, you have a lot of different prices. So you can buy a really cheap string and probably have really bad string as well, right? Or if you're choosing because of the color, then you use the color that you like the most. And still, that string could be really bad for your arm, or could be really bad for the needs that you have, because some players, they love overheating, but they get a lot of balls out, right? So if they have a powerful string that has no control, yes, they're going to, when the ball is in, it's really super fast, but you know how many points you need to win a match? It's not only one, so you can hit the fastest shot in the match, the most amazing forehand ever seen in the history of humankind, and still lose the match,
Yeah, 1 point.
So how good is the power if you didn't have any control? So there are strings that are made for you to have more control, right? And it's the opposite with a guy that has great control, but all his balls are going like if he was, I don't know, like someone really old, like all his balls are going at no
Very
speed,
short.
So there are strings that have power, and this power will help to generate more speed in your ball, but also sometimes more weight. So if the ball comes fast, but it has no weight, then you can get it back really easily. But sometimes when the ball comes probably not that fast, but with more weight, it's really difficult. Or ask Novak Djokovic. He just lost against Vesely, I think.
Yes.
And this Vesely, dude, this guy hit the ball with so much weight, so his ball was so heavy that even when Djokovic had the ball there, he couldn't really do anything with it. The ball was so heavy, so difficult to take it, to get it back, to the right position, So the strings can help you actually to generate the best power, spin, control. Even for guys that are using a lot of kick, there are strings that will help you really good with the spin, but bad with the slice, or bad with the kick. So there are many different combinations of attributes in a string that can help you achieve better goals when you're playing tennis, okay? So for many people out there, it's a fashion, Which string are they using? The fashionable string, the one that everyone uses. But they haven't even thought about the possibility that string could be bad for their game,
Yeah, no, 100%. It's so interesting. I mean, because, while you were explaining, I was thinking about, like, you obviously have the different types of strings, but then within, different categories, like poly, for example, you have, like, more on the power end, more on the control end. So I guess one question is, like, how about multi-filaments? Can you explain, like, that string, like what that is, and then, like, who would, if anybody would want to use that type of string?
Which using polyester on the arm. So people would, instead of putting natural gut in the crosses because it was really expensive, they would use a synthetic gut, right? That's why it's called synthetic, because it was synthetic gut, right?
Yeah.
Synthetic gut, it's a string made of nylon, basically. And this nylon string would have different filaments in it that would make it a little bit softer than the polyester string, right? So that was a perfect way to save money. Instead of using natural gut, you would use a synthetic gut. But the truth is that synthetic gut and natural gut are completely different. I know it's called gut, after the synthetic, it says gut, but that does not mean that the feeling of gut and synthetic gut are alike. But it was softer than the polyester, so it was a good thing to use, combining it with a polyester, or sometimes they would say, oh, little kids, not to have issues with their arm, the best thing for us to do is to give them full synthetic gut, in the racket. So they would string with synthetic gut the entire racket, not a hybrid, but the entire string job would be a synthetic gut. Okay, so that was a right way to do it, in that moment, But nowadays, let's say in Genesis, we have a string called True Grit, okay? And we have a girl that is right now, I think she's 7, and we have this kid who's right now 10, but he has been using True Grit since he was 6, and he has no problems with your arm. But once I published about this, so I said, look, this kid, he's 8, 2 years ago, no injuries, no problem. The string is really soft and it's helping him to achieve better goals in the tennis court, you know? And some people got crazy and mad at me saying that because of me, that kid was going to have arm issues and all this. But it's not the case because we are not selling polyester, we're selling co-polyester. And many of the additives that we put in these strings are additives that make the string to be really soft on the arm. So they won't generate problems in the arm. So you can use a full bed of a string like True Grade in Genesis, or in Signum Pro, we have two strings that are super soft to the arm. One of them is Polaris. This is the newer string from Signum Pro, super soft, but with great power, great control. And then there's another one that is the softest copolyester in the market called Outbreak from Signum Pro, and it won't generate any problem or any issues in the arm of any player. So you have the best of the copolyester world, and you don't need actually to use a synthetic gut there anymore, you know, because synthetic guts, because of the material that they're made of, they lose its tension like crazy, you know, and copolyester is not. So it's so much better to use a copolyester if it's soft on your arm, but at the same time, it won't lose its tension like crazy, that it actually doesn't need synthetic guts anymore. But there's a market that is used to synthetic guts already, you know. Or the other reason to use a synthetic gut is to save some money, because some synthetic guts are cheaper than the copolyester. Okay, so let's say a reel of one of the best-selling strings out there has to be around $260, right? But from the same brand, you go and you buy a synthetic gut, then you buy a reel for $70. So if you combine them, you save a lot of money there, right? The good news is that Genesis has reels for much less than $260, so you don't need to go and pay $260 and then $70. You know, you can go and pay $130 for the True Grade and still have an amazing string with great attributes, great spin, power, control. You know, all the things that you need for playing tennis. And the same case scenario with Signum Pro. You know, we have many different strings that are really amazing in all senses, but they're good on the arm as well. So you don't need to be combining them with a string that will lose its tension, you know? And that's one of the other questions that I'm sure you're going to ask us eventually. When they string with copolyester here and synthetic gut here, they use two different tensions usually. And the reason is because this string, the synthetic gut, it's going to lose its tension. You know, so you need to string this one at 50 and this one at 55, and then you're going to have them at the same tension, you know. But the best thing about copolyester is that you don't need to do that anymore.
Super interesting. Thanks, Richard. And it's the beginning of, after I asked you the question, like I think it may have lagged a bit, but let's say so synthetic gut versus multi-filament, like, I guess, is multi-filament just like a little bit softer, more comfortable string than synthetic?
Well, actually, synthetic gut is a multi-filament because it has a main filament in the inside and it's covered by different filaments in the outside. So that's multi-filament, okay? So there are different kinds of multi-filaments, which there's a central core, which is a monofilament surrounded by other monofilaments that are really thin. But there's also other synthetic guts that are, you know, or multi-filaments that the core has more than one filament as well, okay? Now, that's what we call a multi-filament or a synthetic gut, but then there's also another level or another line of products which are called microfilaments or microfibers, okay? These strings are, let's say, as an example, in Signum Pro, we have the Micronite, and we have the fiber core, and in Genesis, we have the Explosion. Okay, these strings have more than 2,000 filaments inside. So they give you a much better feeling, a really close feeling to the natural gut. But because I have used natural gut and these ones, for me to try them out and give a really good explanation of how they feel, the feeling is really unbelievable in the natural gut and in the microfilament. But the difference is the microfilament vibrates less. So for people that has had any issue with their arm, the no vibration is really good, you know. So the less vibration is really good in the microfilaments. And almost any brand out there has a microfilament, because a lot of people that are, that play tennis for only the joy of it, like the best feeling when they hit the ball, so they only use microfilaments. So the truth is that I wouldn't recommend, let's say, if I see someone that is 80 years old and he goes and play with his friends and he's not trying to do the perfect stroke, or the most amazing serve. He only wants to touch the ball, and get the ball back, play tennis like if they were playing, let's say, pickleball. Then for that kind of people, playing with a microfilament is perfect, because they're going to enjoy every stroke by the feeling that they get from the string, So that's a really great way of, enjoying it better without having the problem of, because they're not doing their stroke in a really good way, they won't get hurt because the string does not vibrate, So that kind of string is more for, probably some coaches, after being there just fitting balls for 8 hours, sometimes they have problems with their arm, because they are actually not trying to hit the forehand like this. They're just hitting the balls like this, So some of these coaches use the microfilaments, and I think it's a good way of helping them for their arm to feel better,
Sure, for sure. Thanks, Richard. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out like the spectrum of competitive players. So like the majority of individuals who listen to the podcast are like, I would say 3-0 to 5-0 players. So within that rating spectrum, who, like generally speaking, who do you think should be using like copolyester versus other strings? Do you think that the majority of these players within this range should be using copolys, or do you think that it still kind of depends upon their playing style and power and control and stuff?
Okay, when you say 3.5 level, sometimes some of these guys never pop strings, right?
Yeah.
So or the strings last a long time.
Yeah.
So they could use the polyester, let's say 18 gauge. I recommend that someone that is not popping strings often to use a thinner gauge, okay? What does a thinner gauge produces? First, a thinner gauge feels better, for one reason. The thinner the string, the more that you get a bite from the ball, So the ball penetrates more in the string, the thinner the string is, and then you have a better feeling in the ball, okay? So many of these guys in 3.5, they could use a microfilament or a synthetic guard, and they probably won't find much difference, So those guys could use, well, a copolyester in 18 gauge, which is really thin, or even a 9 gauge in some cases, and still feel amazing, So why do I want the player to feel amazing and generate better spin or better power or better feel? Because I am sure that even guy that is playing 3.5, he wants to get better, right?
Yeah.
And he wants more balls inside the court, okay? So this kind of strings will help you getting that, you getting more balls inside the court, get a little better spin, many of these guys love the slice, slice a lot. So with a thinner gauge, you get a better slice as well, and your ball will die a little bit better than with a thicker gauge, okay? Now, I've seen as well that because there's a lot of lack of knowledge in this field, that I've seen guys that are 3.5, they never pop strings, and they use the thicker gauge, so the string will last for a year in their racket. But that's not good for them, because if actually they can use a thinner gauge and generate better spin, better power, and have better feeling tennis court, that's actually the direction that they should go to, okay? Now, from someone that loved using the cheapest string out there because it was durable, I can tell you that after trying the good string, there's a really good reason for someone to change to a better quality string, because you want better things in the tennis court, like if I think how many times in my life lost a match after having, a game point that was important, but my ball went out by this little, or I had a match point and I lost it by this little, and then I lost the match. Dude, getting that ball in is worth change the string. It's worth it. Try a better quality string. It's worth paying. I think that, each person needs to understand, sometimes we don't want to spend money, but we go and we spend money in the racket, and we spend money in the shoes, and we spend money in many different things. And then we don't realize that the string is the heart of your racket, the heart of your game is right there. And then you go to the tennis shop and you ask for the cheapest string, and well, why did you ask for the cheapest string and not the cheapest racket? You didn't go to Walmart to buy the $15 racket from Wilson over there, but you go and you say you want let's say the racket from that Nadal uses, right? And you go and you spend $260 for a racket, and you want the cheapest string job. I mean, that's a big mistake. You need a good motor in your racket, right? You don't only need the nice looking racket, you also need a better motor, right?
Well, Richard, look, I know I lost that very important match in the finals, but I saved $5. So, I mean, it's okay. No, I'm totally kidding. But as far as the string tension, I'm wondering, how do we figure that out? Because you hear about a lot of different fluctuations. Like some players, they're even playing in the 20s, 20 pounds or whatever. Like, what's the best way to figure out that?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I've strung professional players that were stringing at 30 pounds, And well, let me tell you, I used to string at 65 when I was 20, okay? And we were using nylon strings in that time. So when polyester came out, I was still stringing at 65. And then a friend of mine came from France, and he was playing the futures, and I was playing the qualies of the future with him. And he was stringing at 45. And he said that I was completely crazy stringing at 65. And I was like, dude, I've strung like this for ages, and I feel it really good. And he said, yes, but you're losing feeling with that tension. And I was like, no, I have a lot of power. I'm gaining control. And he said, well, that was the case with nylon strings, Yeah, that was the case 20 years ago. But with the new copolyester strings, more tension give you less feeling, It does not really gives you more control or less power. So I recommend you to try less tension, try to see what happens. So I went from 65 to 52, okay, just like that. And then I started realizing that I was not losing power or feeling, or control. Actually, I was getting a little bit more control because I was feeling the ball more, like the stays a little bit longer, and how much longer? It's like nanoseconds. It's not something that you can actually measure, but the ball goes in the tennis strings deeper, in the bed deeper. So like this, when you hit, your spin gets better. And when you hit a slice shot, or a drop shot, then the ball, you feel like if you're putting it right there, So from my point of view nowadays, using really high tensions won't be good for a player, So I think from 49 pounds to 55 pounds, it's the best tension you can use with modern copolyester strings.
Thanks for that, Richard. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been testing different strings lately, and back to gauges, I guess. Like I had bought a 17 gauge of Solinco Hyper G, and I tried it, and I felt like I had lost like a lot of control, so I had to go back to the 16, and then eventually I settled on 16L for now. But I just thought it was really interesting that even like a 0.05 millimeters could really affect like the amount of control and feel that you have. So I mean, it seems like it's really important. Like even small things like that can make a huge difference in your game.
Okay, let me tell you. Let's say we launched a new string from Genesis called the Hexa Infinite, okay? And we have it in 16 gauge and in 17 gauge. This is the string, okay?
What's the name of it again?
We have it in four Hexa Infinite.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this is the new development we launched from Genesis. I'll tell you a little bit more about it later. But the thing is that we have it at 16 gauge and 17 gauge. On the 17 gauge, I mean, just lasts a little bit less, but I still have the same. I felt it exactly the same in 16 and in 17. Okay. So I think it depends on the string, because in this string I haven't feel a difference, but there are other strings that I do feel a difference between 17 and 16. Many players use 16 for training and 17 for playing, because the thinner the gauge, the more feeling you get from the ball, or the deeper the ball goes into the bed of the string, so you can generate better strokes like that. Okay. But in my case, like strings like these, I don't really feel a difference. The only difference that I see is the durability. In 17 gauge, it will last, like 20% less than in a 16 gauge. I know it's really little, like you say, it's just 0.05 millimeters, but still it generates a big difference in durability, right? So that's what I've been seeing here. And there are problems with some strings that in 17 gauge, they will pop really fast. So players will go to the 16 gauge for it to last 20% more, but that does not mean that string is a really durable string, right? Many players are looking for durable strings, not because of the quality of the string, just because of the durability. Sometimes some of those durable strings out there in the market are really bad. The string that will give you any kind of shiver arms that have injured in the wrist because of the string, the vibration of the string was really bad. So from my point of view, it's important to find it really nice for you, and that you can feel better spin, better power, better control for yourself, So the kind of game that you have is really important, just to find the perfect string. Let's say if there are 500 different strings out there, just imagine how to find the string, because usually all the players go on, it's kind of a fashion, like everyone's just using one string, like the one that you're using, so everyone goes to use the same string, not because the string is good, but because everyone is using it, right? Now, which top 10 player ATP is using that string? Well, no, there's no way 10 ATP 10 player using that string, right? But I mean, it's not about who's using it or who's not using it. It's a fashion. Everyone in your area is using that string, so you go and use the same string, But that does not necessarily means that string is the one that will help you or help your game to be better, or for you to achieve better goals in the tennis court. And from my point of view as a business owner, it's not about the money, For us in the Tennis Depot or in Genesis or Signum Pro USA, it's about tennis. We want the players to be better. We want the players to be happier, because for me, tennis is life. And I know that by playing tennis, I'm happier. And I have my kids playing tennis as well, and we together, we are a really nice team. And we help each other to achieve better goals in the tennis court. And the truth is that if you think tennis is a philosophy, tennis and life are pretty similar, like when you think you already have the contract in your hand and the client is ready to sign the contract, and you start feeling too cocky about it, boom, then the client goes with the competition and signs another contract with someone else, and you lose the sale, right? Well, the same thing happens to the tennis court. You're feeling too cocky because you have a match point, dude, and then you lost the match, So
yeah,
that kind of things happen. But I think that for me, teaching my kids to play tennis is as well to teaching them how to live their life, And if I teach my kids to be really fair in the tennis court, like if the ball was in, they have to call it in, because if not, they're cheating, I teach them that in the tennis court because I want them to be like that in life, So when I see I don't know if you watched the movie of King Richard, right? You
Mhm.
probably watched it, right? Do you remember when the father of the girl asked asked her to cheat on the William and Venus Williams?
Mhm.
Dude, I've seen that in the tennis court when I take my kids to the tournaments, and I'm like,
Terrible.
gosh, I mean, are you kidding me? Because if you're teaching your kid to cheat in the tennis court, then you are teaching your girl how to cheat in life, right?
Right.
So when
100%.
she has a husband, is she going to cheat on the husband? Is that okay? You know, because I mean that's what the father is teaching her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Bad values.
So from
Shame.
exactly. So when I find a coach that is teaching them the values, those kind of values, from my point of view, that's the most important thing. You know, there's a really big coach out there whose name, you know, is usually out there because I mean he has been in the, you know, sitting there in a semifinal in Roland Garros with one of these players playing one of his players playing the semifinal and all that. I was listening at him the other day teaching his students. He said that once he was playing a tournament and he was losing, you know, when they tied in the second set, the kid asked permission to go to the restroom. And this guy, the coach, the guy that is the big coach, you know, and he was teaching this to these kids. He grabbed the rackets of the guy that went to the toilet, and he smashed the rackets in the floor, you know? So there was no judge there or anything.
Oh my
So
God.
when the kid gets back, all his rackets are broken. And when this kid calls the referee of the tournament or the, you know, the director of the tournament, he said, he broke his own rackets. I mean, why are you, you know, why would I break his rackets, you know? And he said that you have to win no matter what, you know, but dude,
Jesus.
you know, I
The heck?
wouldn't let that guy to teach my kids, you know. And this guy, I mean, he has photos with all the big players in the world and all that, but you know, that kind of coach is not teaching them life, you know, and life is not as simple as that, you know. If you cheat, eventually life is going to cheat back on you, you know. But well, we're listening the subject, but I think
No,
it's
that's
really
interesting.
important that
Wow.
you know that I have a really big passion for tennis. So when I go and sell a string to any player, I'm not cheating on them. You know, I really want them to play tennis better. You know, and when I develop a string and I spend a lot of money to develop a string for a player, I'm trying to do the best possible for this player to play tennis better and to enjoy this sport better, you know, because that's more important than money, you know. So a lot of people, you know, they care about money, you know, and of course we need money to survive and we need money to travel and to do the things that we like. But that does not mean that selling or requesting the factory to make a string that will last less. So I will have more profit from the players because they're popping the string every hour, every 2 hours, and will make me have more money is actually what me as a business owner is going to want, you know. So I prefer to make a string that will last longer and will feel better and will generate better spin and better power and sell the best quality product in the world for my players, you know. And let's say in Signum Pro, I mean, we have a player that is top 6 in the world using our string, which is Matteo Berrettini. And he was sponsored by us until last year, you know, but the big brand that he's using as a racket, you know, they told him, hey, we'll give you so much more money, but do not put the S sign in the racket, okay? So he said, okay, you know, I take the money. And now he was our sponsor player. He stopped being our sponsor player. He's now our best customer. He's still using our string, but he's paying for it. And I don't think there's any other top 10, 20, or 50 ATP player that is actually paying for his strings as long as he's still using the string that he likes.
Right.
So that's from my point of view really, really interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's super interesting that he's doing that. And you said that he's using Signum Pro Firestorm, right?
Exactly. Matteo
Yeah.
Berrettini uses that string. And a friend of mine was stringing the Australian Open. So I just want to be sure that he's still using that string. And he said that yes, that's still the string that is stronger for him over there.
And curious some more about that string. So that's a cold poly, is it? And is what gauge also is, what is he using?
We have 3 gauges, 18, 17, and 16. He uses 16. Now, this string is really amazing because there's opposites in life, okay? So you can't be this and this at the same time, There's certain things that are opposites. When we were growing and playing tennis, they would say, less tension, more power, and less control. More tension, less control, and more control and less power, okay? So we would say that power and control were completely opposites, right? Now, Bert Grudner, the owner of Signum Pro, which is an amazing, amazing guy. He's a German engineer, really passionate about it. And these strings are made in Germany as well. He created Firestorm after so many years of developing strings, and when he made this string, he was able to achieve amazing power and amazing control in the same string, okay? But with great feeling. So the first time when he sent me this string for me to try it out, he said, this is a really super soft string for your arm. And so I was stringing my first racket, and I was feeling the string, and I said, this string is not soft at all, because while stringing it, I felt it, a little bit tough, So I said, this guy is crazy, this guy became crazy now. He's saying that this string is soft, and it's not. So I went there to the tennis court to start testing it, and I said, I can't believe it. It felt so hard when I was stringing it, and it feels so soft while playing, So
wow.
A string that is powerful, with great control and soft at the same time is an amazing string, because it will help many players stop getting injuries in their arm, while still generating a lot of power and a lot of control. And you can see guys like this that I just mentioned, that he has a lot of power and great control as well, And I think that's really important if you're playing a really important match in a Grand Slam, So it only depends of the level. It does not depend on the level that you're playing. If you still want to win that match, it's better to have a string that will help you until the last point than to have a string that won't, So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And well, curious too, do you know what tension Berrettini is using?
No, the truth is that I forgot to ask, but I'll probably try to get you that information later. Don't worry. I think it's a hard. It's difficult for me to get you the tension, but
no worries.
I'll request my friend to give me the attention that he was using. Now, I want to jump to the subject of Genesis, which is the other brand that we carry and that we sell. We actually own Genesis, me and 4 partners. And in Genesis, what we have, and which we find it really interesting, is that we only have the best quality strings in the world, okay? So we have play tested let's say 200 different strings that the factory sends to us, and from those strings, just a few come out to be Genesis branded, And the reason is that, let's say, they sent me some really nice feeling strings, they felt like Alu Power Off, but the durability was really bad. I'm not saying that Alu Power Off has great durability, but if I'm going to launch a string, I don't want it to be great feeling, really shitty durability, like I told you, my intention is not, to have players spending so much string because my durability sucks, So I prefer to have a better quality string, even if that is not making me rich, Now, this is a box of a Genesis string. That means that when you go to Tennis Warehouse or Tennis Express and you buy a reel of Genesis string, you get it in a box like this, which is a really nice looking box. Why do we care about the way we show our product? Well, it's because our product is top quality, and you can go and buy a big brand reel and you only get your reel of plastic, and then you pay $260 and you only have a reel of plastic, I want the player to know that even if they're paying much less than what I just said, they are getting a product that speaks for themselves, from this first moment in which you grab your box until the moment in which you are playing. So the full experience has to be amazing, because that's what I would like as a customer. It's exactly that. If I say, let's say I'm the customer, I want the best experience from moment zero. So we have great customer service. If you call me to place an order, I will have a really nice chat with you about anything you want to chat about tennis. But at the same time, the experience that we do when we ship the reel, when you get it, when you receive it, when you realize that you're getting the best quality in the best way possible, then that's important for me. Okay. So the first thing that you get in this box, it says Genesis, our logo, and it says Magic inside. Okay. So this is really important, because I think, well, our biggest selling strings are Black Magic and White Magic. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why Magic inside is what we put in this box. Now I'm going to read what all our customers can read when they get a reel. In Genesis, we strive for perfection. The string you have in your hands was created under the highest standards and supervision. We care about you, and we want you playing your best tennis more frequently. We made this string keeping in mind everything you may desire in a string, and the results will speak for themselves. Now, the next thing to do is to get your racket strong and get out there to the tennis court to find excellence in your game. And then my name, Richard Groenewold, Genesis CEO, and right here, our motto, which is believe in yourself. Okay? So let's say, as I told you, tennis is a philosophy for me. And if you combine philosophy, well, the way tennis is life, how tennis is life are so similar, then our philosophy, we want the best quality for our clients. We want the clients to be playing tennis better. And I have the experience in part of our customer service is that when someone calls me and say, hey, I got injured using this other string from this other brand, so what do you have? So besides sending them the string, sometimes I ask them to send me a video of them playing tennis, and I try to help them, because even with the worst string in the world, there's something that you're doing wrong, and that's why you got injured. Right? Mm-hmm. So you're hitting the ball a little late. Yeah, that's the reason, So you're moving your hips before you're sending the racket to the ball, then that's one of the other reasons, So many times I help them as well with these, even if that's not part of what my customer is happy, enjoying tennis better, So I record as well the many training sessions with my son, and I put them up there with some advices of how to play tennis better, So from my point of view, that's really important.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that you're sharing those clips as well. A lot of important concepts there. So in terms of shaped strings, I'm curious for you to kind of explain how that works, because I know we talked about that, when I was at Panera a few days ago talking to you. But what is the impact, if any, of shaped strings and different sided strings, etc.?
Okay, this one, which is our best quality string in Genesis, not in Signum Pro, Hexa Infinite. We spent so much money creating this string because we want the best quality string for professional players. And many players that are in college and many players that are playing futures are loving this string because of the quality, Durability is amazing. I mean, this is probably the most durable string in the market. And still as well, it generates a lot of spin, power, everything. We made it hexagonal just because of that, because a lot of players out there are looking for hexagonal strings for more spin. Now, I want you to know that many players in the ATP are not using hexagonal strings because of one reason. The corners of these strings will as well give you a better bite from the ball, but will give you a little less power. Okay. And many players in the ATP are looking for the most power possible. So even if it's only 1% less power or 2% less power, they don't want less power. So they won't use a hexagonal string. They will use strings like the Polaris from Signum Pro or the Firestorm from Signum Pro, which are round strings, So, but it's really common nowadays that people has, this fashion about hexagonal strings, shaped strings, and shaped strings will give you a little bit more spin, a little bit more everything, because there are strings that are not only hexagonal, but they're twisted. So in the twisted strings, we have this. The hexagonal strings will generate better spin, but when you went down with the slice, the ball tend to go a little bit high. So, players that love slicing the ball or hitting drop shots wouldn't enjoy hexagonal strings as much. So that's why twisted strings were for. Twisted strings will give you great spin, but great slice as well, and great kick as well. So twisted strings are amazing for that. The string that I told you about, this kid who's 10 years old now, he was 6 when he started using our string. The True Grit, it has 10 sides and it's twisted, but it's super soft at the same time, which is really important for players not to have the issues of the arm issues, like no injuries and things like that. So, but that string will generate all different kinds of spin, and slice and different kind of effects in tennis court, which makes you make your game a little bit more all around,
Yeah, super interesting. Thanks for explaining that, Richard. What, in your opinion, are the biggest mistakes that players make? You mentioned a couple, but we'll see what your answer is for, when they're choosing strings. Like, what are the biggest pitfalls that they come across?
I've seen guys going to the tennis shop and requesting either the cheapest string or the most expensive string, So they don't even know what it is. And they probably are overpaying, in the expensive string, but they don't care, they just want to spend more, So as well, in these situations, I mean, I understand some guys have a lot of money and they love tennis, so they want the most expensive string. But the truth is that the same way you study your forehand or your backhand to make it better, or your serve, you want to have better serve, so you study to make a better serve. I think the same way a player that is serious about tennis should study about tennis strings, So just imagine, just in Genesis, we have like 30 different SKUs, and in Signum Pro, we probably have like 40 different SKUs, okay? And that's combining not only the name of the string, but also the different gauges, So if you say, okay, I enjoy power and speed and this and that, and you give me a list of the things that you're looking for in a string, I could probably help you find the best string for you. Or I can give you a sample pack with 4 different strings that are related to exactly what you're looking for. So like this, you get the chance to try 4 different strings, and then from there to know which exactly is the best string for you. And let's say you found that from these 4 strings, you like this one really good, but probably this one has 3 gauges. So it would be nice for you to try those 3 gauges before knowing if that's exactly a perfect string for you, So of course it costs money, but dude, if you're spending $750 in 3 rackets, plus racket bag, plus apparel, and you're not buying only one shirt and one short, right? So if you're spending that and you are paying $50 per hour lesson, why not spending as well, a little money into play testing 4 different strings, and finding that the perfect string that will fit your game better and that will make you play better and enjoy the sport better, Now, why do I care about players enjoying the sport better? For one reason, in that philosophy of tennis, or in the information of tennis, if you look for in the internet, I mean, even the ITF published this, Copenhagen Heart, there's an institute, the Institute of Heart Study of Copenhagen. They made, for 25 years, they were studying a lot of cases, I think like 9,000 cases of people. that were playing different sports and the people that was not playing sports. And they realized that the people that play tennis live 9.7 years more than the people not playing tennis. But then you say, well, the people running, they also live 9.7 years more, right? But guess what? They don't. People running, jogging, they only live like 3 years more, as well as people, playing soccer and things like these, So 9.7 more years you live, you play tennis, and 6.2 years approximately, some people will live longer and some people will live less, but approximately 9.7 more years. After tennis, it was 6.2 years badminton, okay? So I had been trying to find myself an explanation for this, and this is another important part, I want my customers to be happier. And if they're happier playing tennis, they will live longer as well, because they will keep on playing tennis for a longer period of time. Now, why tennis gives you almost 3 times more than jogging or swimming? I think I have the explanation. People that play tennis usually, not always, but usually after playing tennis in the morning, they go with their friends to drink a coffee, or have breakfast. They usually don't go to the bar after playing tennis, Some guys do, but usually it's not the case. You have a group of friends in the morning, you play tennis with them, and after that you go and have breakfast with them, and you talk and you chat about all these things. So I think that also gives you a reason for living longer. You have a happier life through tennis than through other sports. Because you go swimming, you swim by yourself. Right. You end up swimming, you go back to your house, to your home alone, right? So why live longer, But tennis gives you not only the exercise, it's also like if you are doing exercise at the same time you're playing chess, because in the tennis court, you have to be deciding how to move so you're using your brain as well. So you're using your body, your brain, but at the same time, the next thing that you're doing as well is that you're having companions for your life, like I've known guys that are really, I don't know if saying all this politically bad way of saying that someone is advanced in age, but I've seen guys that are 80 years old and their friends that they're playing tennis with, they have been playing tennis with them since they were 10, So tennis gives you a companionship for life, It's not only about the friendship, It's something that goes way beyond only the friendship, So I think these kind of things are important for someone that cares about tennis. So when I bring a tennis string or a tennis over grip or a new tennis racket, I'm just thinking of that, I'm thinking not on the way to make my money for myself, and because I need to survive as everyone else, but I'm also thinking of all this philosophy of living our life better, and making life better for others.
Yeah. I just love hearing that. And yeah, I mean, the social aspect, relationships is one of the most important things that we can have in our lifetimes. And you build a lot of those. And, I've just benefited so much personally, as have you, Richard, from all these great relationships formed from tennis. So I love that. In terms of strings again, I was wondering if you could tell me, so like and we have kind of discussed this off air, but just like a use case. So say like I play with Slinko Hyper G usually, like right now, and so 16L gauge, I think that's 1.25 mm. I string it at like 52 pounds. What string would you suggest that I try from the Signum Pro or Genesis line, and then why?
Okay, perfect. Now, from all our array of different tennis strings, we have one string that has a similar vibration, okay? Because we measure the vibration of the strings. And it has a similar vibration that makes people to find a similar feeling as well in the string. So this string is a little bit more powerful and great in spin as well as the string that you're telling me. Its name is Hexonic 2.0, okay? Now, this Hexonic 2.0 will kill the one that you're telling me in durability, because it lasts so much longer, but great in tension stability, okay? So we know these because many players that were using this one, of course, changed to ours and they're loving it, and they are telling me, dude, this ring lasts 5 times more, and I still have the same feeling, great power, they have the attributes that they have in the other, but with much better durability. Now, the factory, when they created this ring for me, they said, hey, do you want less durability, so people will be popping more strings? And I was, no, I want to find the way to have better durability in the string, because many of these players are future players or UTR Pro players, and they travel and they have to be spending ridiculous amounts of money for restringing their strings, for the rackets. And I don't want them to be dealing with that. If the string is perfect for a longer period of time, that's exactly what I want, and that's what we achieved with Hexa Infinite and with this other string, which the Hexa Infinite is going to be softer on your arm. Okay, so many players in Hyper G are liking that vibration that it generates, that it's not soft, So that's the reason why we brought in Hexa Infinite. We are looking for softer strings, but Hexonic 2.0 is amazing because the frequency of the vibration is similar, so it's not a softer string, but with great durability. Now, I want you to know something about Hexonic 2.0 that makes it really special. We have been working to try to develop a more ecological or eco-friendly string. That's really impossible. All the strings up to now, probably natural got not, but all the other strings are really bad to the nature. Like if you toss the string to the ground, it's going to stay there forever. It's not going to decompose or anything. It's not going to help nature. Now, Hexonic 2.0 is the first one to have a natural ingredient that I cannot disclose. I cannot tell you because I signed a confidential agreement with the factory. Exactly. Now, it's because they are using a natural ingredient in it. Okay, so it still has PET, but a big part of the material of it's a natural ingredient. Okay, so because of this natural ingredient that comes completely from nature, part of it will decompose and will, help the nature be better. So Hexonic 2.0 is something really interesting. And if we achieve to do a string with this natural ingredient, 100%, then we will have the first string ever that will be 100% eco-friendly. Okay, and I mean we're paying a lot of money into developing it, and probably we won't be able because the engineers are telling us it's almost impossible. But I believe in impossibilities. I think it's impossible. Many things that happen into tennis every day. Including Nadal having 21 Grand Slams. I mean, many of the things that are going on in the tennis world, are impossible. But they still happen. So I think if we keep on trying, we probably will eventually be able to achieve the impossible and make a 100% eco-friendly string, which will be, if that happens, is going to be a game changer. Now, if all the copolyester strings are polluting, and we make a string that lasts 4 times longer than other strings while still achieving perfect tension stability, perfect power, spin control, and everything, then at least we're polluting 1/5 of what other strings are polluting. Okay, so that's also important for me. That's why I think believing in durability with perfect tension stability is really, really important, and as well, we'll launch another string called Hexonic Power, which in Racketpedia or Stringpedia, got amazing ratings, and it will blow will blow your mind up when you see the ratings that it got compared to RPM, Alu Power, Hyper-G, Turbine. I mean, all the strings in the world, none of those strings has the ratings that we have in Hexonic Power, which is a really amazing string at the same time and great in durability as well.
Awesome. That's so cool. I can't wait to try them out, Richard. Very interesting stuff. And I guess, at this point I want to ask you, where is the best place for people to go to like, follow you and follow Signum Pro and Genesis? Like what are some, social profile, website, anything you want to shout out?
Perfect. Yes, in Instagram and Facebook, it's at Tennis Genesis instead of Genesis Tennis, because there's apparently a club called Genesis, which use the name Genesis Tennis. Then we are Tennis Genesis, and then for Signum Pro, Signum Pro USA. So both in Instagram and Facebook. And then our site is thetennisdepot.com. The interesting part of our site, thetennisdepot.com, we are not trying to sell to directly to the customer. Okay, we prefer the customer to go to Tennis Express, Midwest Sports, Tennis Warehouse, and buy directly from them the strings that we sell. But the Tennis Depot is more a site made for, let's say, wholesalers or stringers or coaches. So we give them special pricing there, and after they create their account, they let us know what kind of customers they're going to be. So we will set up that account with a special pricing. So the coaches will have a special price for them, and the college teams as well. So the Tennis Depot, it's actually made for that. Okay. So before Tennis Depot, you put THE and then Tennis Depot.
Got it. Awesome. Very good. And you said the Signum one was at Signum Pro USA. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then at Tennis Genesis. Excellent. So, Richard, I know you've given us a lot of great tips and advice today regarding strings, but what is one key tip to help players find the right strings for their game?
I think there's no one specific thing. I would put it in my site. If there's only one secret that will change everything for everyone, I mean, that would be amazing. The only thing that I say or that I believe in is that the customer service that we give on the idea of we loving tennis, and me having my kids playing tennis as well and trying to achieve higher goals through it, is that whatever advice we give you in our site, or if you contact us, we will always help you finding the perfect string specifically for you. Okay. So I won't recommend you the string that I want or that I make the most money off. I will recommend you the string that will actually help you to play better tennis and enjoy tennis better.
Awesome, Richard. Well, hey, it was so much fun to reconnect with you, and definitely really appreciate it. We've got some great announcements coming up for the summit regarding Signum Pro and Genesis, so that's exciting as well. And yeah, thanks a lot, Richard, for coming onto the show and for educating us about tennis strings and Signum Pro and Genesis. Really enjoyed it. So looking forward to connecting again soon.
Perfect. Hey, thank you so much for that. And thanks so much for inviting me, my friend. I enjoyed so much talking about it.
Thanks, Richard. Same here.
Have a good bye.
All right. I really hope that you enjoyed my interview with Richard about how to choose the best tennis strings for your game. And if you got value from this episode, and as well as if you like the Tennis Files podcast, and I would really appreciate it if you would leave a review for the show. And you can do that by going to tennisfiles.com/Apple Podcasts, or just leave a review on your favorite podcast app of choice that you use to listen to the show. I just find that Apple Podcasts is the biggest mover in terms of making the show more visible to more people the higher it ranks, because of more reviews and ratings and such. So you're doing your fellow tennis players a favor, and don't worry if they're your opponents, because you'll just learn more than them because you're more dedicated, right? Well, I certainly hope so. But in any case, you are very dedicated because you're listening to the show, which is aimed at helping you to improve your tennis game. And I as well would like to leave you with a quote, as I often do at the end of the show. And this one is by Mark Twain. You probably have heard of him if you read books at all. And Mark said, "The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why." I really love that quote there. With that, thank you so much for listening to the show. And as I said, look out for the Tennis Summit, my annual online tennis conference. This will be the 6th year. And I was doing some counting, and I guess in the past 5 years, we've had close to like 50,000 people attend, like something very close to that. I know the highest amount we've had was like 14,000, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Just started, it was all started by one man named Mirban, last name Moranchad, of course. I don't know, saying my name seems kind of egotistical, but anyway, and it's just grown from there, 3,000 people the first year, and then just gone up all the way up to what I said, 14,000, well over 12,000 the past couple of years. So yeah, definitely I would encourage you to be on the lookout for that. If you keep listening to the podcast, I'll give you details on it. It starts April 18th. And sign up for my newsletter. You'll get a free ebook at tennisfiles.com. And you'll also be notified of when I make new content, or, when the sign up for the summit begins, which is actually a free event to sign up and watch. And there's other components to it as well. So yeah, hope that you are playing a lot of tennis, really focusing on at least one big ticket item for improving your game. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Tennis Files podcast. Take care.